Welcome to No Border, No Country. Matt, we've got a guest in the studio today, which doesn't happen that often.
It's amazing.
So, Hayley Hill is the press secretary here at FAIR. She works with me in the communications department and does a lot of the behind-the-scenes work that makes this podcast run smoothly. And Hayley, you were out in the field recently. What happened?
It was an interesting day. We went to the No Kings protests in Washington, D.C., talked to some of the crazies out there, and we've got some good footage to show you guys.
Were you ever concerned for your safety at any point down there?
There was one point where it was a little bit questionable, but we were able to just kind of walk away. They followed us for a little bit, but then that was kind of the end of it.
So do me a favor, for all of the people who are not familiar with the No Kings protests, connected to immigration, why did you guys go out to talk to these people?
So a lot of people right now are protesting President Trump's immigration policies. So a lot of the signs that we saw were calling ICE Nazis, were calling the Trump administration Nazis, the Nazi Party, comparing it to Nazi Germany. And a lot of it was focused on immigration enforcement.
I worked for ICE for many years. We were not Nazis, didn't speak German.
Nope.
They didn't issue us jackboots.
Nope, none of it.
So I understand you've got a lot of good footage here, which is on its own video on FAIR's YouTube platform. So we're going to mention that later, how to find that. But if we're ready to go, let's play the first clip and see what you came up with here.
Excuse me, do you have a minute to talk about your sign?
Sure, it's my friend's sign, so what is this supposed to say? Oh yeah! I mean, I don't even know that we need to talk about it as much as this says everything about it.
Yeah, so you think that ICE is kidnapping neighbors?
Yes, they're wearing masks and not showing their faces.
Do you know why they're wearing masks?
Yeah, because they don't want to be known because they're ashamed of what they're doing, and they think that they should be granted the anonymity that no one else in the United States is.
Gotcha. Okay, so you think also having the National Guard getting involved and, helping to protect these federal buildings, that's a big no-no?
Ridiculous theater, and they think so too. You should see them. They're deeply bored. Them and their terrible mustaches. It's very embarrassing for everyone.
So what do you think would be a good immigration policy for the United States?
This is, how much time do you have? I think that it's a question of what aspect of immigration you're talking about, and it's whether or not you think that immigrants are positive or negative in the United States. And I think all the data shows that they're incredibly positive.
So I don't think anybody's saying that immigrants are bad for the United States. It's more of getting the proper vetting and making sure that the right people are coming into the country.
Sure, so how does kidnapping people off the street do that?
Matt, there's a lot to unpack in that brief statement.
There's
there.
a huge amount to
Let's start with they're wearing masks because they're ashamed of what they're doing.
And they have terrible mustaches. That's an important part of it as well.
Is that the real reason? Because they're ashamed of what they're doing? What's the real reason?
No, they're wearing masks because when this started, this is the first time anything like this has ever been done during the internet age. And so what's different about now versus operations that INS or later ICE conducted in the past? Well, now you can go onto a database and you can find an ICE agent's information because public employee details, their names and salaries are all public information. And so then you can take that, if you know what you're doing, and find another database and find that person's address. So all these poor ICE agents who are just trying to do what they were hired to do are being doxxed. And I will just throw in, I worked for ICE for many years. I deported going on 10,000 people during the course of my entire 20-year career with Homeland Security, and I'm not ashamed of any of it. I'm very proud of it because the people I was putting out of the country either broke the law to come here or broke the law to come here and then continued to break the law after they were here.
To further hammer the point about they're doing it because they're ashamed of it, it was in the news recently that Lori Lightfoot, the disgraced failure of a mayor of Chicago who ran the city into the ground and was a big sanctuary mayor.
Great dancer, too.
Yeah, often known as Beetlejuice. Announced that she was starting a project, an accountability project, that was going to list information that they can gather on ICE agents. So it's basically a public doxing program for ICE agents. And if one of those agents were to get injured or killed, they would just wash their hands of any responsibility when they're fueling the doxing process there.
Oh, of course. There's no accountability here. I mean, this whole argument that federal law enforcement officers acting with badges, with appropriate paperwork, arresting people who they have targeted, which means they already know they're here illegally. The whole argument is just absurd. And this just goes to show that anti-borders people want to portray immigration law as something different. But in reality, it's not different than any other area of law. And you don't find cities declaring themselves to be like, sanctuaries for EPA regulations. I mean, Massachusetts will declare itself a sanctuary for illegal aliens, but it's not declaring itself a sanctuary for whalers who want to, go out and hunt whales.
Haley, you showed a lot of restraint not to engage with that woman because the ignorance was starting early and fast there. Do we have the next clip ready?
Why are you flying a Mexican flag in D.C.?
We're flying a Mexican flag in D.C. because it's a multicultural country. There are so many people in this country. This formation of this country isn't just American. The concept of America being a country of the United States of America, when Mexico calls itself the United States of Mexico. America is from the north to the south. It's this entire continent. And to feel proud of your own country, just as multiple people in this multicultural country feel, it's a time now to not be embarrassed, to not be afraid, to not be scared to where you come from, because we are a multicultural family. People say we're a melting boiling pot, and people want us to stray away to just become one single monocultural thing, when America has never been like that. It has never been that. It's always been a multicultural society.
So according to this guy, there should be no assimilation whatsoever. Whatever you bring with you, you stay that way. You don't accept the American culture, way of life at all.
So, Haley, do you have the impression that these people actually had any idea what they were protesting? Because what that guy just said didn't make a lick of sense.
No.
The United States is not the United States. Americans aren't America, and I lost track. There were so many errors there.
Yeah, I mean, this was probably one of the more frustrating interviews that we did, because there were two of them standing there flying a Mexican flag in the streets of Washington, D.C. I mean, this is our nation's capital, and you're going to sit there and say that you're so proud of your country, but you're not flying the flag because you're proud of your country. You're flying the flag because you hate America. There's a big difference there.
And don't you think people who want to stay in America should probably be flying the American flag?
Right, exactly.
And also, at the beginning of that clip, I'm sure you heard it very clearly there, they're chanting, no ICE, no KKK, no USA at all.
Yeah.
Does that sound like a group of people that are here to make the country better or to destroy it?
They're here to destroy the country. They are here to completely erase the American culture, the American people, and they want to replace it with everybody that's not an American. It's sickening, it's sad, and it's delusional, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Apparently, the National Guard mustaches are atrocious, but if you're a hairy, nasty protester, that's fine.
Right. And he kept getting closer to the mic, so I had to keep, scooting it back, because I don't know why he was yelling, and, I mean, he was yelling, and I still didn't understand a word he said. So.
Okay, what else do we have?
Excuse me, do you have a minute to talk about your sign? Sure. All right, what do you think about ICE and the deportation efforts that they're taking across the country?
I think it's criminal and they need to completely crush ICE.
Do you think that they should be defunded?
Yeah, they should also be held in the Nuremberg Trials.
So you think that they're similar to Nazi Germany?
Absolutely, 100%.
Thank you.
Man, I believe you talked about this recently. You had an op-ed about this, actually.
Yes.
The distinction between the Gestapo, which is what they accuse ICE of being all the time, and ICE agents. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. That drives me nuts. So the ICE agents and the Border Patrol agents that have been working with them and all the other federal law enforcement are arresting people who are not citizens of the United States, who broke the law and either came here uninvited or were admitted and then broke the law in a way that renders them subject to deportation. That is people acting according to laws that were passed by a duly constituted legislature in a democratic republic. The Nazis rounded up people who were German citizens, and they sent them to death camps without any kind of due process based on who they were, because they were Jews, because they were gypsies, because they were homosexuals, because they were people with disabilities. This isn't what's going on here. There is no punishment for these folks. They're being sent back to the country where they have citizenship. And this is an illustration of how benighted and paternalistic these people are. It's okay for these people to come here illegally and want to stay because their countries are so terrible. But if you pointed that out to any of these people, you'd get a lecture on cultural relativism. And many of the places that people are leaving when they come here as migrants are places that Americans regularly go on vacation. I mean, Cancun, Cabo San Lucas.
Hayley, what was the craziest sign you saw people carrying there?
Oh, gosh. Probably the craziest sign. There's a girl that we talked to later on, and she has a sign with a swastika and the SS symbol on it. And she was also another character, but the amount of swastikas I saw on the streets of Washington, D.C., it's crazy. And the amount of kids that were there, too. Like, you are teaching these younger generations that, yes, this party, these people, they are Nazis, and they are going to kill you. And I can just imagine what's going to happen in the future as these kids grow up and they continue to follow these things. They continue to be brainwashed. I mean, it's crazy. It's hard to imagine.
So did this strike you as a spontaneous protest? Because it seems to me that there are a lot of people there echoing a party line as if the whole thing were an organized effort.
It was definitely an organized effort. I mean, there was a stage with bulletproof glass. Bernie Sanders was there. He was one of the headline speakers. There were different groups, organizations that were there. They had tables set up. I mean, they were handing out food and drinks and signs. You could buy whatever you wanted on the street. It wasn't some spontaneous thing that took 2 weeks to plan. I mean, this is something that must have taken maybe a year to get put together. I don't even know.
You know, Matt, to your point about the distinction there, these activists, these anti-borders activists at the top, I'm not talking the street level, but the politicians, just the grassroots type activists who we know are getting money from shadowy places, they're talking to these people, they're messaging to these people who we know are not Mensa members. We're talking easily impressionable people. You hit them with a daily barrage for years of Trump is a Nazi, ICE agents are Nazis, on and on and on and on. And then is it any shock that they have these firmly held beliefs that anyone trying to enforce immigration law is a Nazi?
No, it's not a surprise. I mean, what's going on here, and I used to even see this in immigration court with the attorneys representing illegal aliens and immigration law violators in court. This issue is being approached emotionally. The arguments that those people were making were emotional arguments. They're not legal arguments. And so why are these people being targeted by ICE? You know, when I said earlier they're targeted, I meant that in the professional sense. It's a term of art, meaning that there was a targeting package put together in order to find somebody and arrange to arrest somebody who law enforcement knows is, either has a conviction or has some kind of other order and is unlawfully in the country. When these folks say targeting, they're giving the impression that all of these folks are somehow based on their race or the color of their skin, because you constantly hear about black and brown people being picked on. When the reality is, it's a distinction in legal status. These people have come to the country uninvited, so they are illegal aliens. And, we have all kinds of statuses like this in law in the United States. There's people who are licensed to drive and people who aren't. I mean, next time you get pulled over, try telling the state trooper that you're an undocumented driver if you don't have a license and see how that works. So they're taking a distinction that is made on a legal standard and enforcement efforts that are to protect the American public, and they're analogizing them to a dictatorial regime eliminating its political opponents without any kind of due process.
All right, let's go to the next clip.
So the Republicans are saying that the Democrats want to give free health care to illegal aliens, and then the Democrats are saying that the Republicans are taking away health care for everybody, and there's just kind of this tit for tat that's going on. Nobody seems to agree on anything. What do you think would be a good path forward?
even if immigrants who are here not legally were to get health care, so what? You know, we should take care of everyone who enters our country.
Who's going to pay for that?
The American public, all the rich people, Elon, Bezos, all these rich people should be taxed at the 92% rate they used to get taxed at. They should not be that wealthy. Obviously, the tax structure is wrong if they were allowed to get away with this ridiculous amount of wealth that they have.
Okay. I hate to deal in stereotypes, but if that wasn't the classic middle-aged, far-left, white liberal Karen, I don't know who is. I mean, it's just central casting, as they say.
It's an awful, the angry
Yeah.
left-wing white women.
But doesn't it really reveal the I don't know what it is, naivete of these type of people that, first of all, they have no idea how expensive all this healthcare being used by illegals is. But then for you to say, who's going to pay for it? Well, the American people, the rich people, Elon Musk. Deconstruct that for me, please.
Stop for a minute and listen to what she said. She said, we should take care of everybody that's in our country. If we stop paying for health care and all kinds of other things for illegal aliens, because illegal aliens, you know, if you're a nuclear physicist from Germany, you don't sneak over the U.S.-Mexico border and come here and wash dishes in a restaurant. That's just not the way these things work. So the group of people that was let into the country en masse under the Biden administration is at the low-wage, low-skill range. So these are not people that make a lot of money. They consume services. So the irony of this whole thing is, if we put those people out of the country so that we're not paying for them, you would have more than enough money available to give free health care to every American if that's what you wanted to do. And so that one was just a walking example of Margaret Thatcher's statement that socialism is wonderful until you run out of other people's money.
Yeah. Now, Hayley, you said there were children there you saw, but one of the complaints I heard about the No Kings protests nationwide was that it was mostly older people. What was your reaction as far as the age of the people there?
It was people, I mean, it was a lot of older people. It was people that were mostly white and people that seemed like they have really no reason to be protesting and arguing. I mean, if you can take a beautiful Saturday instead of spending it with your family and taking your kids to play outside and this is what you're doing, like, I mean, come on. What are you really doing with your life here? And I just also want to point out that this woman holding a Nurses Against Fascism sign. So first of all, what does that mean for the people that they're calling fascists? Are the nurses going to start discriminating against people that they deem are fascists? Or, I mean, she also said they are not legal. That means they're illegal. I mean, like, they know it. They're just changing the rhetoric so it fits their current agenda.
I wonder what someone like that would say. She's a nurse, presumably, right?
Mm-hmm.
When she gets a notice that, oh, by the way, the hospital you work at is closing down because they're bankrupt because they've been servicing all these illegals with free health care.
Right.
Well, that's actually happened in the border zone. There's something like 95% of the healthcare facilities in the border zone, which I think for these purposes was like within 100 miles of the border, have gone out of business because of EMTALA, the Emergency Treatment and Labor Act. And so for a long time, you had people who weren't even interested in staying in the United States coming here, having a child at a U.S. hospital so the child had citizenship, and then going home and sticking the American taxpayer with the bill. And how are you going to collect that? So, you know, there's cause and effect relationships here that are being ignored entirely by these people. Now, I wanted to ask, and this goes back to age difference, because I'm sure Hayley thinks we're ancient. But about, 15, 20 years ago, the Tea Party protests were going on here. I've been in D.C. for like close to 20 years now, and I think those were going on shortly before I got here. Those protests, you'd have several 100,000 people show up, and when they left, you'd never know they were there. They cleaned up. Yeah. The places were pristine. They left everything in better condition when they came. Now, I couldn't help but notice, but out where you were, there seemed to be a lot of litter on the streets. there seemed to be a lot of installations of signs and people passing out leaflets and stuff like that. And I know for a fact, driving past there after these protests went on, everything was filthy. Is my impression correct?
Yeah, so we were there kind of at the start of it, and then we were also there towards the end of it. I mean, walking through those streets, it was a disaster. There were bottles and paper everywhere, random signs, overflowing trash cans. I mean, for people that say that they love the environment and they're trying to, combat climate change, the litter was crazy. They didn't pick up after themselves. They were slobs. They just threw stuff on the ground. It looked like the aftermath of a frat party.
Probably expecting the illegal aliens to pick it up.
Exactly.
Now, in those interviews, Hayley, it looks like you're standing fairly close to these people. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rank the body odor?
It was bad.
Really?
It was really, really bad, yeah. And some of the people, they would stand super close to you, and you could smell it. You could smell them as you were approaching them. It was awful.
So here's another interesting question. Brian has pointed out that almost all of these people appeared to be older, on the wealthier end Caucasian people. Did you get the impression that any of these people had actually ever met a migrant in their life or spent any time having a conversation with one?
No, and then you ask about, did you know people that were arrested, deported, and they won't talk about it. So they're willing to go out with signs. They're willing to spend hours of their day protesting to get this big bad guy out of office because he's deporting these people that they love and they know, but they won't tell you about the people that they love and they know. I mean, if something terrible is happening to these people, you'd want to tell their story, but they don't know anybody. They have no story to tell. It's not their story to tell.
I suspect the only people they do know are the cleaning crew that comes to their nice suburban mansion and does the weekly cleaning.
Yeah, or the gardener.
Yeah.
Right.
So did you sense the presence of any migrants at the protests aside from the two hipsters you encountered with the Mexican flags?
Yes, and again, at these kinds of things, you don't really know what you can or can't ask, especially as this was the first time that we've done something like this. But there is a woman that we spoke with that said that she had a very thick accent, and she was actually holding a U.S. terrorism sign and saying that the U.S. is committing terrorism by, destroying these cartel boats that are transporting drugs.
And yet she's living here,
Exactly.
not someplace where the cartels are
She's
operating.
looking out for the rights of the narco-terrorists funneling fentanyl into the United States.
Yes.
That's
God
nice.
forbid we disrupt their business operations.
Right, and that's considered terrorism to her. And there was another individual that is here legally, and she's still out there defending these people that are crossing our border illegally, circumventing the fines, the fees, the whole process of coming here. And she's sitting there. She had gone through that process, and she still thinks it's okay to just completely disregard that process.
Haven't people tried to make the claim that those boats were fishing boats that were being blown up there? They're like these cigarette boats from Miami Vice, and you can see them loaded with containers of presumably the fentanyl. What fishing boat looks like that?
None. And I don't know. I just find it interesting that these people who all thought it was a great idea to assassinate Charlie Kirk and who are advocating political violence in order to get what they want, find that violence against narco-terrorists who are engaging in an act of war against the United States is somehow problematic as a human rights issue. It doesn't make any sense. You wonder how these people can complete a tax return. They're so devoid of anything, resembling linear or mathematical logic.
Hayley, this is my favorite clip of the whole video you did here. As I said, there's not a lot of Mensa members in the crowd, but this is the most intelligent person I think you interviewed on the street. The answers you got here were the most logical and made the most sense of any of them I've heard. Go ahead.
Do you actually talk or no? So what do you think about Trump's immigration policy? How is Donald Trump a king? You're just gonna leave it at that? Yeah, you're good?
I think after that I heard he got a job as a contributor at MSNBC.
He was there. There were some weird people there, but he was definitely my favorite, and he smelled the best, surprisingly.
Why do these people take these protests and turn it into like a cosplay or a Halloween party costume event?
Because they're out of touch with reality. Listen to the way they're talking. So obviously, this for them is about living in some kind of pretend world. I mean, if you're the kind of person that thinks that ICE, the law enforcement agency that was set up specifically to arrest immigration lawbreakers, is engaging in kidnapping, you clearly have a loose relationship with the truth and with reality. So it doesn't surprise me that they're showing up in their Muppet costumes.
What else did I saw in the full video? You had there was a guy dressed like a space alien. I think there was one that was a lobster. What else did you see?
There was a giant baby, Donald Trump. There were a lot of people in those blow-up suits like frogs and pigs. And, you know, I think it's because they're trying to say, like, hey, you're saying these protests are violent. Here, let's show you that these aren't violent. But in reality, nobody's going to take you seriously if you're walking around as an inflatable pig. I mean, it's just not going to happen.
And that's the other part of this, is these people clearly have no understanding of how immigration law works. And I get the impression that they think that you show up at the border and the U.S. has to let you in regardless. You just choose whether you want to be here legally or illegally, which is like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Yeah. And yet this seems to be the approach that 99% of these people take to this. And they're putting together that illegal means you're here without authorization. No one lets you in. And legal means we did invite you to come here in some way or capacity. And it's totally illegal to come here without the permission of the U.S. government. And every time I watch one of these clips, it's mind-boggling to me that these people don't understand the very basics about the immigration law that they're protesting.
So if you found those clips mind-boggling and you want to see more, those are just the tip of the iceberg to a much longer video that Hayley put together interviewing many more of these people. Where can people see the full video?
You can check out our YouTube channel, which you are probably watching this on right now. It is one of our newest videos, so it'll be right there on the top.
And what about social media, X?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we're also on X and Instagram, Fair Immigration.
Any thoughts in closing from this experience? Do you consider yourself traumatized after this or emboldened or what?
You know, I slept the entire day afterwards. It was a mentally draining day. And I am very worried for our future generations, because again, these are moms, parents, teachers, fathers, that just don't seem to get it. So I'm curious to see where the country goes.
Well, we appreciate your bravery in going down there in such a hostile environment.
Yeah, it took some guts to go out there.
Yeah. So very well done. Great job.
Thank you.
And come back with more sometime, because I found this fascinating. I don't know about you.
Oh, yeah, it was absolutely fascinating. We definitely need to do more of this, and you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
It's not easy to talk to people like that. Having been a judge, I've had to talk to a lot of people like that in my life, and it's not an easy thing to do, and you did an outstanding job.
Thank you. Thank you.